Now we want to talk about doubling down on wind power, and not just using wind power, but making New York City one of the global capitals of wind power, because where we are is perfectly situated near some of the most promising areas offshore in the entire nation for wind power. And we want New York City to be the center of this new industry. This is not just a today plan, this is a long-term plan to build up our capacity. We're putting almost $200 million into this plan. It will take between 10 and 15 years to fully achieve, but it is worth it. We should be the hub for the wind industry in this nation. We're going to develop world-class infrastructure. We're going to develop the training programs, especially working with CUNY to get New York City residents ready for these jobs of the future, apprenticeships, you name it. The impact on our economy is going to be huge. We predict 13,000 good-paying green jobs. Just initially, I think it's going to grow from there. We're going to focus on getting jobs to some of the communities that have been hardest hit by COVID, by the climate crisis, turning crisis into change and getting those jobs for folks who have been afflicted by the crisis. But here's the underlying power of this initiative. We must change the trajectory on climate. By turning to wind power with this intensive new initiative, we can reduce 32 million tons of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, the equivalent of taking 500,000 cars off the road. These are big, big things we're talking about all week that change the reality fundamentally. And we are ready to do bold things in New York City. So I'm putting in place a plan that will go on for years and years to make us the renewable energy capital, the wind capital of America. And you might ask yourself, well, how is that plan going to be continued once you leave office? Are you certain there will be the focus and the commitment to turn New York City into a great renewable energy capital? I want to tell you, yes, I am. I am, because I believe in New Yorkers, but I also believe in one New Yorker in particular. And well, election's a few weeks away, but I will give you a prediction that the person you're about to hear from will be the next mayor of New York City. He has been an adamant change agent, someone who sees possibilities that often conventional wisdom doesn't recognize. And he understands the climate crisis is something we have to address head on here in New York City, and I have full confidence he will lead the way. My pleasure to introduce the borough president of Brooklyn, Eric Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good seeing you and Donovan. You know, I'm a mama's boy, so happy birthday to your mom and your entire team. I've stated this for years, Mayor, and I'm glad you are, also appreciating that we must have one solution to solve several problems at the same time. And as we deal with the environment, we must talk about jobs, infrastructure, and building out a pipeline of those young people who have been left behind for so many years. And this right here, offshore wind power is an example of this concept. It can create a windfall for New York City's economy and put us on a path to meet our climate goals. This is so important. And the demand for wind power is growing across the entire eastern seaboard, Long Island, New Jersey, Virginia, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland. They have all committed to buying 30,000 megawatts of offshore electricity in the next 15 years, and we can be the feeder of that. The project you are talking about will need nearby manufacturing hubs to design, construct, and ships the parts. These are jobs. And we have the infrastructure in place to create wind manufacturing hubs right here in Brooklyn, such as the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal, the Brooklyn Navy Yard, the Red Hook Container Terminal. All are excellent locations for us. And thanks to the effort that my office earlier this year partnered with SBMT is already transforming into wind turbine assembly and maintenance plant through a great deal in partnership with an outside business entity. The deal will bring 1,200 green jobs to the Sunset Park community. But we can't stop there, as you are announcing now, and I'm just really happy to join this announcement. Now is the time to grow this industry and make our city a national leader in wind power. We must invest in education to create the pipelines that I talk about for these jobs, funding new wind energy programs at CTE high schools and CUNY campuses, great jewels for us. In addition, we should create a specialized green jobs program in partnership with employers, labor leaders, and industry experts to identify and train talent from low-income areas and communities of color to fill these jobs. So building the offshore wind industry from scratch has the potential to make our city more sustainable and more equitable. And we are going to make sure the wind that we provide energy is going to put wind in the sails of our economy and in the future of everyday New Yorkers. I cannot thank you enough for this. This is so important for the future of our city, and I'm happy to be here with you as you announce it.
Thank you so much, Borough President. Over the many years we've known each other, what I love is you always see the future and possibilities and the ability in New York to reach these really, really new, powerful places. So I am happy to hand off this ball to you, and I look forward to watching New York City blossom as the renewable energy capital of America. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Now, I want to hear everyone from someone who's really been passionate working for this day and has put a lot of work with her team into building up the infrastructure that Borough President Adams just talked about so that we could be positioned to play this crucial role in the world. She does a great job leading our city's Economic Development Corporation, but she's also understood that economic development must be synonymous with addressing the climate crisis. President and CEO of EDC, New York City EDC. My pleasure to introduce Rachel Loeb.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. And thank you, Borough President Adams, for joining us as well. I am so delighted to be here to join in this really important announcement. When we talk about a green economy, what we're really talking about is renewable energy and the jobs of the future coming together. And we know that there is no economic health without climate health. So our vision lays the groundwork, as the mayor said, to make New York City a hub for the offshore wind development, an industry that's going to bring all levels of jobs for New Yorkers and offer our neighborhoods clean alternative energy. Currently, EDC oversees the development of offshore wind at the South Brooklyn Marine Terminal in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. With this vision plan, we are positioned to expand our efforts. Combined with the federal and state focus and New York City's unique ingredients, our location and our talent, we are poised to lead this industry like no other. We also have the opportunity to build an industry from the ground up with that special New York City secret sauce. So what's our plan? As the mayor mentioned, we're going to invest $191 million and create 13,000 jobs in an offshore wind ecosystem. Our core strategies are threefold. We're going to develop best-in-class sites and infrastructure. We're going to prepare local businesses and New Yorkers to enter this workforce. And we're going to promote innovation in the offshore wind industry. Supporting MWBEs and other local industries today so that they have the right training and tools to compete in this new industry is important so that they can access this $70 billion supply chain opportunity. Supporting innovation today so that new technologies and approaches are created here in New York City that we can export to the rest of the world. And we're going to do all this while directing at least 40% of the jobs and investments towards women, minorities, and environmental justice communities. And as the mayor said, this is going to have a real impact for New Yorkers. We're going to also remove 34 million tons of CO2 from the environment. It's also a unique opportunity for us to increase diversity in the waterfront construction field. So we're partnering with CUNY now to begin training New Yorkers today so they can participate as the industry develops. And we're also partnering with capacity building partners so that minority and women-owned firms are ready to compete on a more level playing field. But we can't do it alone. And so we have to have industry leaders at the table with us. So we're going to deepen our strategy and our success by Industry Advisory Council composed of community, business, and nonprofit leaders. So today, I'm also pleased to introduce our co-chairs of this Industry Advisory Council, Casey Stahl of VHB Consultants, who leads the Northeast energy market and is a leading voice in the growth of the offshore wind industry in the United States, and Elizabeth Jean-Pierre. She's the Executive Director of UPROSE and the National Co-Chair of the Climate Justice Alliance. And I can personally attest that she has been an incredible partner and champion as we build this vision to date. So I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your support for this investment, and we are so ready to get to work. Thank you very much.
I know you are, Rachel. I appreciate that winning spirit. Go out there and change the world. And you just mentioned Elizabeth Jean-Pierre, who is such an amazing advocate for environmental justice and someone who has an impact not just here in New York City, but nationally through her leadership. So let's hear her talk about how important this development is. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Ashe, gracias, and thank you to the mayor for leading and making it possible for us to invest in infrastructure that climate change is demanding. I want to also thank the New York City Economic Development Corporation and NYCERDA, who have worked so closely with frontline leadership to address complex climate solutions. The climate justice movement for their relentless commitment to transformation that moves us away from extraction and demands economic development that honors the size of the crisis. UPROSE, which is based in Sunset Park, is a Black, Indigenous, women of color-led organization working at the intersection of racial injustice and climate change. We are intergenerational, which means young people are centered in all decision-making. They're part of a vine of leadership. We don't say pipeline. Pipelines are bad. Vines are good. So we say vine of leadership. We are happy to see that the vision plan is mission aligned with the grid. And the grid, which is the result of a decade of comprehensive community-based planning for the green reindustrialization of New York City's largest industrial waterfront in Sunset Park. The significant maritime industrial areas in New York, and particularly in Sunset Park, have been the source of pollution, environmental harm. But these investments can turn them into vehicles for a just transition. Offshore wind is an example of what is possible. Resources for EJ communities like Sunset Park to build renewable energy, sustainable manufacturing, food security, clean transportation, and create thousands of well-paid green jobs is what we need to do right now. And we need to think about this in context of what is happening to frontline communities. Not only are we the majority in the city, but we are the communities who have been disparately impacted by COVID, health disparities, unemployment, displacement, extreme policing, and the legacy of violence generated by institutional racism. And so on top of that, we have to add climate change, which will disrupt every aspect of our lives. So now is really the time to lift and support frontline community solutions, to embolden agencies to do what is necessary to partner with us in a way that is significantly different, and to collectively address this crisis, which is coming, which is here, and which is really going to impact those least responsible for creating climate change more than any other. So on behalf of UPROSE and the Climate Justice Alliance and also the New York City Environmental Justice Alliance, I just want to express gratitude. We look forward to working and building and transforming our landscape. Gracias.
De nada. Elizabeth, thank you for your leadership. You've given me a new quote I'm going to use: pipelines are bad, vines are good. I like that. I learned something new today. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your passionate leadership, and we're very, very glad you're going to be leading the way on this initiative.